like every single video that I post, people say, how do you manage dislocating ribs? And it's something that I've had probably the past 12 months, I've had it happen like 4 or 5 times.
Right. And then you made a post about finding out when does it happen or how does it happen. Now, how does it play out, right?
Not if it happens, when it happens.
Yeah. So the common things that we get here: brushing my hair, laughing, hopping, reaching for something, picking things up.
So the traditional way of treating this, when I've been to a physio for it, the one time that I went to a physio, was a lot of massage in the back muscles, no exercises, and she did manipulations. Which the manipulations, to be fair, like when my mum's an ex-physio and when I had it happen most recently, once it had died down, a little bit of manipulation made a huge difference.
Right.
But I would never do that as the only treatment. I was also doing exercises to help it as well.
Correct. So to be clear, we're speaking in the context of Ehlers-Danlos and hypermobile population, right? So massage would not be my first go-to because, what we were discussing the other day, like rigidity is your friend.
Yeah.
You need everything to be rigid.
It just also makes it feel good at the moment, but it doesn't actually do anything.
Correct. Correct. So I'll give you an explanation a bit later why rigidity is so important. It's based on a theory called Punjabi's neutral zone theory.
Yeah.
Right? But we'll get to the context a bit later.
Yeah.
So all the examples that we're getting here, such as coughing, sneezing, sitting down and trying to stretch out, reaching for things. So it's all happening what we call is the sagittal plane, right? So sagittal plane is front to back, or back to front. The most common thing that I can see here, it's either you're going from flexion to extension, but in these regions, your thoracic spine.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a very hip dominant problem here.
Yeah, I would never get it if I was doing a full body thing. It's just when I'm sitting in a chair, I've been sitting for a long time, I stretch like this.
Yeah.
And then I and then I go back like this and I'm like, okay, just hold it right there. And I have to kind of,
right.
It may or may not.
So again, it's flexion to extension, but in relation to our thoracic spine, not necessarily our low back or hips.
I would say sleep is the other time. But that's unpredictable what we're
doing. That's something that comes with the territory of hypermobility and Ehlers-Danlos, right? Okay, so again, bench press, which is creating an extension movement, reaching for something using mouse, sitting weirdly for too long. So again, these are all flexion extension or flexion extension dominant problem. All right. So let's...
How does the coughing sneezing fit in with the flexion extension?
So whenever you're coughing or sneezing, we use the low back pain as a context. So we have a discogenic problem, right? So think about from the top, this is your spine and a vertebrae, a segment of it. This is the front of your disc. This is the back of your disc, right? Whenever you have a discogenic problem, when you bend or when you create a lot of pressure down this way, hydraulic pressure pushes the disc to the back, and that can irritate either the nerve related to the disc or the nerve related on the outside. Now, coughing and sneezing also creates the same amount of pressure, right? Because you're using your diaphragm, pulling it downwards, and pushing all the pressure to the back. And my assumption would be in those cases that the rib probably dislocates posteriorly or the back of the body, right? Because what happens is like cough, sneeze. So one of the strategies that I use is cough or sneeze upwards. Look up and then sneeze. I know it's not the most hygienic way of doing it, but what would you rather deal with, right? So just move away to the location and then do that. So when you go into extension and hold that extension, you're coming from a much, much better neutral position rather than putting, again, that flexion, that...
Is there anything, I'm just thinking a lot of people with EDS and hypermobility have the CCI, the subcranial instability.
Yeah.
With that freaks me out a little bit. Is there a way that you think, like, would you lean back or...
Well, I wouldn't even lean back. I would just then, in that case, focus on more just leaning back from mid-torso rather than bending the neck.
Yeah.
Right? And again, when we're talking about sneezing, we're not talking about looking up. You're talking about creating a little bit of a even distribution of extension to the back, right? So lumbar spine, thoracic spine, cervical spine, they're all getting a little bit of extension, so creating a nice little curve.
Because that's the other thing, people with hypermobility would probably just be able to look up about doing any kind of extension in the back.
Correct.
Because this each segment's so flexible.
Yeah. And then a simple strategy for that would be just put your hands behind your back and just lean back a little bit, or push your hands forward into your hips just a little bit, and that should be enough.
Yeah, cool.
Right? So that's going to be one of the strategies.
Because there were so many people who said that sneezing